I get so many questions about self-worth. I get it from students inside the Perfect Match program. I get it from my readers on my email list. I get it on Instagram. I get it from my friends and family members. I hear about it in blogs all over the internet. Self-worth questions are everywhere, especially with us high achieving women. I don't know why that is. And I've always hesitated to answer these self-worth questions because I myself struggle with self-worth. I once spoke to a coach who told me that I have problems with boundaries, and boundary issues come from inadequate self worth. I have been working on improving my sense of value for my own work, for my own time and energy. And I'm still learning what it means to deeply love and respect oneself. Therefore, you can imagine I had imposter syndrome when it came to answering these questions on self worth. Who am I told myself. Who am I, Malaika Neri, to answer questions on self worth when I myself am a student on this journey? But the questions kept coming. So I've put together this video to help you on the path of self worth. I want to preface it with a reminder. Self worth is a journey. There's no today you are completely worthy. There's no magical Wednesday afternoon when you feel like, yes, I've made it. I've hit my self worth goals. I'm done and I never need to work on this again. I felt incredibly confident at certain points in my life and pretty shattered when difficult life events occurred. And I felt like I had to rebuild my sense of self worth and self confidence. Self worth, I think, can also be related to your ability to trust yourself, to trust other people, other individuals, and situations. Sometimes self worth can be cultural. I come from a country where we derive a lot of our self worth from the community that we're part of. This could be a school, a university, an organization, or a family unit. Our sense of self is therefore deeply tied to that community. And for many individuals where I come from, the concept of self having value is brand new. It's very difficult for folks to talk about. And that's why I said self worth for me too has been an incredible learning journey. One of the top recommendations I can make to you on self worth is to remember that ultimately no one cares. Whether you have high self worth, you have low self worth, you have a mediocre level of self worth, nobody cares. Everyone has their own set of problems that they are dealing with. They have things they want, things they don't want, things that are going well in their life, things that they need to pay more attention to. They're not thinking about you. I think that one of the biggest questions of self worth comes from worrying that other people are thinking about us, when in reality, no one cares about what you're doing. They really don't. They are not that interested and they just don't have time. I think I believed the myth for a long time that our parents, who theoretically love us maybe the most, are worried about us. But I realized that even my own parents have their own lives, their own things they want to think about. They have other things on their mind. They don't care as much as I thought they did what I'm doing every minute of every day. That's step number one, is simply recognizing that no one cares. So whether or not your self-worth is healthy, no one cares. The second thing I want to introduce you to, the second concept, is the concept of feel the fear and do it anyway. Does this come from Nike? I'm not sure. What I do know is that no matter whether you take that leap, talk to that guy, go on that date, kiss that handsome fellow, or not, it won't matter. No one will care. Your life is not going to change that dramatically. We think that, oh my gosh, I feel so afraid. I feel so nervous. I'm wondering if I'm worthy, if I can ask for this, if I can go for this, if I can aim for this, aspire to this. And we hold ourselves back from some of the most beautiful opportunities in life, not realizing that actually, in the bigger picture, it doesn't really matter. There are a few things that do dramatically impact your life, such as who you choose for your life partner, the city in which you choose to live, the kind of profession you choose, and whether that profession is a good fit for you. But these are major life decisions. They're not the small day-to-day decisions like, should I text that guy? Should I enroll in this program? Should I give myself a chance to date again? These are pretty inconsequential. And that's why tip number 2 is feel the fear and do it anyway, because a year from now, it's probably not going to matter. Number 3, You can always try again. Recently, my student was saying to me when we were putting together her ideal partner profile inside the perfect match program, she said, well, what if I'm not worth everything that I'm asking? And I said, well, then you can just write another ideal partner profile. It's not cement. It's not going to last for the next 10 years. You can literally put it together again. And even cement will eventually crack and need to be resealed. Nothing is so permanent, well, almost nothing, that you cannot redo it. You cannot give it another shot. And I think this applies to marriage too. If you end up marrying the wrong person, you can always marry again. So, step number 3, you can always try again. And my final tip to you is that self-worth is the wrong thing to focus on. I deeply believe that service is an incredibly important part of life. It is a way to show our love to the world, and it is a way to generate that feeling of love and abundance inside us when we give freely of our own resources to others. This could be through volunteering, it could be through a smile when someone is having a bad day, it could be a hug, it could be sending a letter, it could even be a phone call to an aging relative. Just an act of service, doing something nice for someone who is going to appreciate it. It might seem inconsequential, it might seem irrelevant to this question of self-worth, but I believe that the question of self-worth arises when we focus on self rather than the other. And the best way to switch that focus on self to focus on the world and the needs of others is through acts of service. They don't have to be massive, they don't have to be earth shattering. They can be a simple act of service, like sending your grandmother a card to say, hi, Granny, I was just thinking of you. I love you and I miss you. It can be spending money on a busker on the street who's playing a beautiful song. It can be taking a dog at a pet shelter for a walk, making that dog really happy, getting some time outside. All of these are acts of service that switch your focus from self and questions of self-worth to the other. And that's why step number 4 is focus on acts of service. I hope that these tips have been helpful to you as you're on your journey to self-worth. There are a few other things I do that have helped me increase my sense of self-worth, such as using affirmations, journaling every single night, meditating every single morning for 15 to 17 minutes, and trying to spend as much time as possible outside every single day, even if it's just a 5-minute walk to the supermarket next to my home. I wish you well on your self-worth journey, and I want to remind you that self-worth is a process. You're never going to figure it out, you're never going to get it right, but you certainly can get to the point where you feel, hey, I'm not so bad. I think I could be a real prize for the right man.